Ducati officially joins motocross in a very serious way. Welcome to Vital MX. I'm your host, Michael Lindsay, and yes, any of our news break features are always brought to you by our fine friends at Yoshimura R&D of America. Check them out at yoshimura-rd.com. Yes, this has been rumored for the last year. We've been waiting to see if Ducati was officially going to put their foot out there, officially dip their toes in the water, and announce that they have been working on this project. Because they have. Behind the scenes, they've been working on a 450 development for a while, and now they're ready to announce it to the world in a sense. The bike is slightly teased in this launch video, but their big thing is putting out there that they are going racing next year in 2024. They're going to race the Italian Championship. They have a team. Maddie Racing Team has been signed up to be their official factory effort. And they have two rider announcements. One of them is Alessandro Lupino being brought on at the end of his MXGP career as a test rider. And another test rider, but somebody that's going to be so much more to that, to the brand, is the 9-time MXGP World Champion, Antonio Cairoli, who just departed from Red Bull KTM last week. We knew this is why he departed, but Ducati has laid all the cards on the table. We have a bike that's almost done. We're racing a bit next year. We're going for the World Championship the year after. We have one of the best in the sport now involved with our company. They're taking this very, very seriously. And honestly, at the end of the day, I follow as much of the sport as possible. But when it comes to MXGP coverage, world motocross news, my cohort, Lewis Phillips, is the expert. So we're going to jump into this with him and try to learn a little bit more, as him and another contributor of ours, Adam Wheeler, have been kind of tracking this story throughout the whole year on our website and in our podcasts. Honestly speaking, my colleague Lewis Phillips knows pretty much anything that's going on MXGP paddock or world motocross related, and has sort of been keeping track of this the whole time. So, Lewis, I have you here, and I'm kind of curious. We were expecting a Cairoli announcement this week, the fact that he had departed from KTM last week. The Ducati announcement to actually pursue motocross is a little bit of a surprise, but I guess when you think about it, they very can't well announced that they've hired Antonio Cairoli without announcing why the heck they've hired Antonio Cairoli.
Yes, this is all very exciting. Talk about a stacked press release. We have racing plans, motocross entry, Cairoli signing, team signing, and another test rider in the form of Alessandro Lupino. So as far as press releases go, this is the most stacked that you can possibly get.
That's saying, so we've known pretty well that Ducati has been pursuing this for a while, but they've been very careful on an official end to not actually announce that they were doing motocross. Again, this has been flown around for a while. We know that there's a bike being tested. We'd kind of heard about the Maddie Racing thing, but it's funny. Ducati has been very careful to never officially say that we are building a motocross bike and we are going racing.
Yeah, it's funny. We have been running rampant with the news that Ducati is coming for some time. We've seen them. They have been at Supercross races, Nationals, Super Motocross races, MXGPs. Ducati representation has been everywhere, despite the fact that officially there is no need for them to be. I actually quite like that stance. It's very different to the one that Triumph adopted, but I like the fact that they kind of didn't approach the world with their plans until they had something quite big to show. And the video that accompanies the press release, I presume that is a Ducati motocross bike. It's shot very discreetly, I guess would be the word. You cannot actually see the bike. It's either out of shot or covered by dust or whatever. But there's definitely a bike there, and there's Ducati goggles, Ducati gear. So I presume that is the bike. We know that a full 450 has been tested in Italy for, I want to say, months now. And that would be a near finished product. So there is a bike there, and they will be racing in 2024, not internationally. They will be racing the Italian Championship, which obviously makes sense. This is a very Italian affair. Alessandro Lupino will be their main racer. Antonio Cairoli is their flagship test rider. I expect that he will race on occasion, but I doubt he will be competing in the full Italian Championship, for instance. They will do that from underneath the Maddie Racing banner. Maddie Racing was previously Fantic, so they clearly enjoy aligning themselves with obscure brands. They are Italian through and through, racing heritage, They've taken young youth riders to EMX championships, so they are very well established in the paddock. As a race team, they haven't taken on a what would be the word? They haven't had a full-fledged operation. They've not taken on the full world championship and really shown that they can handle a project of this magnitude. But they, like Tony, like Lupino, are on a multi-year contract. So come 2025, they will enter the full MXGP championship with a Ducati 450F.
Do you think there's any chance? Of course, Cairoli's been throughout this year on the KTM. We've seen him do some wild card races here, there, Italian stuff. We've seen him test. We've seen him ride. He's clearly, of course, still in great shape, still riding constantly. He'll be very involved in this Ducati project. But do you think he wild cards an MXGP race next year, or do you think they strictly stick to Italian, or do you think we get a surprise?
I think that if everything goes well towards the end, they will do an MXGP race. I believe that the MXGP calendar has a TBA. Actually, well, not the TBA. The last round is actually Italy. The track is TBA. So that kind of makes sense to me. What better? Do a year in the Italian Championship, learn a lot, and then come out at the final round of MXGP in Italy with Lupino and maybe Tony Cairoli and make your international debut. Like I say, Cairoli officially is not pegged to do any races, but I suspect that he will if things are going well. Obviously, he's not going to line up at a GP or even an Italian championship if he thinks he's going to come last. He's a 9-time world champion. They don't do that.
Yeah,
if the project goes
he doesn't
well,
go out there to ride around in 12th.
No, but I must say, obviously the Ducati testing, much like Triumph, has been under lock and key. No one really knows much. There's been no leak. But I did talk to someone very close to the operation, and they said the 450 that is being ridden is very impressive and not far off the mark. Apparently, Ducati are ahead of schedule as far as the bike goes. So that is promising.
I think big thing is they're a passionate brand, but they also have a massive amount of funding, not only from the Ducati brand itself is doing very well at the moment, but of course their parent group ownership. They are basically under the Audi, Porsche, total umbrella. There is a lot of money there if they kind of feel the need and the want. And I kind of always look at this as you have a brand like them that gets into off-road motocross, and it's like, okay, it can help them kind of reach a wider audience to maybe eventually get to like their adventure bikes and stuff. But there's also a part of me that really kind of feels like this is a shot across the bow, KTM, for the move they made into MotoGP and the aggressiveness they've seen there. So now it's kind of cool to see Ducati step into KTM's home turf and take them on directly. And the bike itself, I wouldn't be very shocked if once we see a production one, if it's very Ducati-esque, it will be the most expensive bike on the market. I wouldn't be shocked if it's 15 or 18 grand. And they'll probably still sell them all.
Yeah, that is the only real rumor I've heard about Ducati. It will be the most expensive bike on the market. It will have all the bells and whistles, and it will be quite extravagant. And just to clarify, because this will undoubtedly surface, this is not a KTM, this is not a Suzuki, this is not a TM. This has no affiliation to any other manufacturer. So let's kill that now.
Yeah, and from a tech side, I'm curious because Ducati has some unique, what would you call it? They have some unique designs in their street models, some things that they have that basically nobody else can use. That I want to see what they bring to Moto, basically from a tech side, especially on the racing side, whether it's electronics, things like that. I think you'll see a production bike that sort of like what we've seen from the factory editions, but more extreme. Good suspension components, probably whatever exhaust company they're tied with. That's all you'll see. Clamps, bars. I don't think you'll see a bike that will be developed with many production components that plan on being swapped. And if so, Ducati's very key on. They kind of have their own internal, parts they sell. Like you said, you even see guys in the video wearing the goggles, the graphics. Same thing with their road race stuff, the suits, the boots. They want people to be involved with the brand. But like I said, you guys have been, yourself and Adam Wheeler, do our MXGP podcast. You guys have been talking about this all year. So you guys will be doing more info on this and some of the other changes going on in MXGP upcoming if anybody wants to catch on that.
End of this week, Adam Wheeler is a MotoGP expert, so he is very close to Ducati. He has really been motocross's prime source for all Ducati news. So, latter half of this week, we will be doing a full podcast on everything we know, and there are a lot of nuts and bolts to this thing. So, we will be breaking that down here shortly. Very exciting.
So again, if anybody hasn't caught those all year, if this Ducati news is somehow truly shocking you, they are entering Moto, then clearly you guys aren't following it closely enough, and you need to subscribe to the podcast. You can always check it out in your podcast platforms. Search Vital MX, and you can hear Lewis and Wheeler break this stuff down all the time. So thanks, Lewis. Thanks for the info.